The LA Clippers looked like they were in store for another fourth quarter dud, but it was a little more of a Clipper-esque performance tonight. The Clippers coming down from down 13 in the fourth quarter and going on a 15-0 run to win the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Was it the best win of the season? How did they do it? They went away from Ivica Zubac and had success. Going to be talking about that all on today's Locked On Clippers.
Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow my podcast, Dime Dropper, where I will be posting a vlog of this amazing game that I attended on Monday night. The Clippers in a back-to-back against the Cleveland Cavaliers and had a massive comeback late, trailing by 10 points with 2 minutes to go, or should I say 3 minutes to go, and came back to win the game by 2 points, 119 to 117, and it was the Clippers' small ball unit finally paying dividends and showing why there was so much talk about it preseason. But another huge night for Paul George. I'll be also talking about him leading the way, and my man, the man for the big occasion himself, Terance Mann, showing exactly why he needs to be playing consistent, solid doses of minutes in every single game the Clippers play. So let's get right into it. Cleveland Cavaliers having a great season, having won 8 straight games coming into this one, just beat the Lakers on Sunday afternoon. So both teams were in a back-to-back situation, but it was very neck and neck the entire way. It was a really entertaining game, a very offensive-minded game. Both teams were really playing well offensively, making some tough shots. The shot making in this game was just amazing to witness live. Donovan Mitchell was incredible. Paul George was incredible. Evan Mobley started out the game really well, made some nice shots within the foul line, paint area, 8 feet away, 10 feet away. And, you know, Darius Garland didn't have the best shooting game in this one, but he still had some moments of brilliance as well, especially. Actually, no, he shot 8 for 17, but from 3, he didn't have the best shooting game, 2 for 9. But he still had some nice plays in the pick and roll. However, the Cavaliers started to create separation in the fourth quarter. The Clippers led by 1 going into the fourth, and it was the no Zubac lineup to start the quarter. Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Paul George, Norman Powell, and Luke Kennard. And one thing I like about that lineup as far as small ball goes is you have 3 big wing players: Nico Batum, Robert Covington, and Paul George. And then Norman Powell, Luke Kennard are both shooting guard size. So you don't really have a traditional point guard out there, and that's because John Wall was load managing tonight on a back-to-back. And Reggie Jackson did end up playing. Luke Kennard did return. I wanted to mention that as well. Luke Kennard having missed the game because of chest pains, and Reggie Jackson was questionable after getting hurt and only playing 20 minutes in the game on Sunday against Utah. He played, and he had his best game of the season, and that's a huge reason why the Clippers won as well. In my opinion, at least the best game of the season. And Norman Powell, a very solid game as well. But in that lineup to start the fourth quarter, it wasn't great, you know. It wasn't just typical getting beasted on the inside without Zubac. However, it causes you to switch everything more and have to play better one-on-one defense. And the Clippers were really struggling staying in front of the ball and playing defense without fouling in that lineup. And Donovan Mitchell hit 2 threes right away to start the fourth quarter. And one of them was inexcusable. In transition, he's just hit a 3. He's shooting lights out from deep, and Luke Kennard just didn't step up quickly enough. Donovan Mitchell walked into a 3. That put the Cavs up 5. But the guy that actually prevented the game from getting a little uglier at that moment, scoring on the next possession, was Norman Powell. And I thought he was really, really solid tonight, not just scoring the ball, but defending. I thought he had a much better game defensively, especially in the second quarter when the Clippers obviously went away from Zoo and had the non-Paul George minutes. Zoo has to get a rest. How are the Clippers going to survive in those small ball units? And Norman Powell did a much better job of being a solid defender. The Clipper guards have not been very good defensively this season, and they don't really have great defensive personnel at the guard position, and part of that reason is because Norman Powell hasn't been great defensively thus far. But in this game, I thought he was much improved. In the second quarter, he actually forced 2 turnovers on consecutive possessions. One was an interception against Evan Mobley. It was either Evan Mobley or Jared Allen. It was a big, and he got an interception on an inbounds pass going up high. Then another one, he was so attached to Caris LeVert getting over a screen that Kevin Love thought LeVert was cutting and threw the ball out of bounds. So 2 consecutive turnovers forced by Norman Powell in that second quarter. That really stuck out to me. I thought his ball denial off the ball was really solid as well. But the Clippers went down by 7, in that fourth quarter before Ivica Zubac came into the game. It was 97-90. Zoo came in for Paul George at the 10-13 mark, and at that point, you had Paul George, Marcus Morris, and Terance Mann out of the game at the same time, and that was questionable in my opinion from Ty. I was very nervous at that moment in the game because it was like, where were the Clippers' shots going to come from? It was really Norman Powell in with, Kennard, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, and then you saw Reggie Jackson come in for Robert Covington to get a little more shot creation in there. And Reggie Jackson played the rest of the game, 9:43, and at one point when the Clippers just started going down, they went down by 13 with Kevin Love hitting threes left and right. And part of that's because the Clippers could not play good defense without fouling. And, when guys attracted 2 defenders, Kevin Love was found on threes. There were even a couple possessions where the Clippers went zone because they could not defend without fouling. And Kevin Love was hitting threes. And at the same time as that, both teams were hitting threes all game. But at the same time as the Cavs were making that run, the Clippers just went cold. Marcus Morris, cold. Paul George was cold for a little bit in that fourth quarter too. And I think it looked like for a second the Clippers had run out of gas again, and it was going to be the Cavaliers' night. But a very interesting decision was made. The Clippers went small at the 5-minute and 30-second mark when the Cavaliers had 2 bigs in the game. They were down 109-98 and would go down 111-98 before starting their run. But the run really got going when it was 112-100, a 15-0 run by the LA Clippers after that. And it was with a lineup of Terance Mann, Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, Reggie Jackson, and Paul George. Yes, Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell, and they actually held their own. The Cavaliers, started missing a couple of threes. Caris LeVert, Kevin Love finally started missing. But Caris LeVert just did not have a good shooting night at all and didn't really get many shots. So it felt like he was kind of out of rhythm when he shot those shots. He only shot 8 times and only made 2 of them. So yeah, it just kind of was tough to get those shots late in the game when you haven't really touched the ball, haven't really been involved like that. And I think Caris LeVert coming off the bench is a much better move for this Cavs team. I think that's way he gets to run the second unit, and he's really kind of just a role player catching and shooting when he's out there with Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I think it's a much better role for him to be the 6th man in that second unit for the Cavs. But they do kind of have a hole in that small forward position. Isaac Okoro hasn't really panned out the way they liked. And then Dean Wade has shown some signs this season, but I don't know if they want him starting. But anyway, one thing that started happening in that fourth quarter was both teams got in foul trouble. But when the Cavs started getting in foul trouble, they were committing a lot of reckless, loose ball fouls. And it got the Clippers back in the game. Nothing better than getting free throws when you're trying to build a comeback because the clock stops. And Norman Powell made a couple of free throws in that fourth quarter. And a guy who I thought started to do too much for the Cavaliers late in the game, 5 straight possessions went to him, Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell was a problem for the Clippers all game. but they kind of went away from him in those last couple of minutes when the Clippers were building their run. Norman Powell hit 4 straight free throws to make it 104 to 112. Actually, 6 straight free throws to make it 106 to 112. Man, that's crazy. It felt like 4 straight, but it was 6 straight. And then a huge play with the Clippers down 6 at the 142 mark. Darius Garland threw the ball away with a cross-court pass. Terance Mann, amazing hands all game long. Had his hand in the passing lane on this one. Poked the ball away and went in and dunked. Cut it down to 4, which led to a Cavs timeout. And on the ensuing possession after the timeout, Garland turned the ball over in the corner, and Reggie Jackson was fouled with Garland going for the loose ball. 2 more free throws, and that's another guy who made big free throws at the end. Reggie Jackson. Starting with those 2, and then again, Darius Garland running a little pick and roll action. Got to the basket, drew 2 defenders, got it to Jared Allen, and Paul George did a great job of contesting Jared Allen's little push shot and just doing a good job protecting the rim in that small ball unit. And on the other end, in transition, Norman Powell got the and one, which brought the house down. Did not make the free throw, though. He was due for a miss. And then Darius Garland did not give the ball to Donovan Mitchell with the score tied and 44 seconds to go. He shot a step-back 3 over Paul George, well contested, and then you know the rest. Paul George and 1. I thought, it was obvious the Clippers were going to go for a 2-for-1 with 40 seconds left. Paul George aggressive to the basket, took the contact, finished beautifully. And even though the Cavs got a quick 2 on the other end, Marcus Morris Sr. hit 2 massive free throws. Reggie Jackson then made a good decision to foul Darius Garland when the Clippers were up 3, so the Cavs would not get a 3-point shot attempt off. And Darius Garland missed 1 of 2, which allowed the Clippers to seal the game at the line, and Reggie Jackson did exactly that. As the Clippers won it 119 to 117, their best win of the season. Going to be going more in depth about individual performances and what I thought they did really well offensively that led to so many open threes. Going to be talking about that coming up. This episode is brought to you by Sweat Block. I had a friend one time, he just couldn't stop sweating. Just sitting down in his chair, didn't matter. He could have been just not moving at all, and he would still sweat like a pig. And you know how he was able to fix his problem? He used Sweat Block wipes. Sweat Block wipes are your little secret to confidence. The Sweat Block wipes work for up to 7 days per use. Apply them on a Sunday and you'll stay dry all week. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block. Save 20% with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, back talking about this amazing win, the best win of the season for the Clippers. And the reason why I say that is obviously the fashion in which they did it. But in addition to that, the Cavaliers are a really good team. The Cavaliers showed very quickly in this game why they're a very good team. And they have shot makers. That's quite obvious. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, but Evan Mobley was the one that got him off to a good start. The Cavs actually led the game 6-0, and they showed very quickly they were trying to push the pace. This is a younger team. Donovan Mitchell is like the vet of this team, and the guy only been playing in the league for 6 seasons. And so that's really interesting. But looking to push the pace on the Clippers. They have a lot more athleticism than the Clippers as well. But one thing the Clippers did after they went down 6-0 and came out of that timeout that led to so many good looks was Paul George getting a pick and roll with the smalls. And when I say the smalls, that means guards, putting Darius Garland in the pick and roll. And the reason why I think the Clippers went to that kind of stuff with Garland, LeVert's man setting the screen is because they wanted to keep Jared Allen and Evan Mobley out of the action as much as possible. Make them play a perimeter game. Make them rotate out to the perimeter or just pick their poison between getting outside and staying inside the paint and trying to close down driving lanes. And the Clippers got a ton of good looks. Reggie Jackson on that short roll was doing a lot of great things. Paul George was doing a good job making that hockey assist, and that would lead Reggie Jackson into those 4-on-3 reads. He found Marcus Morris Sr. for 2 wide open threes in the first quarter, both of which he made. I also thought Terance Mann was doing a really solid job in that short roll as well. So really good positive for the Clippers in this game. That action with guards that aren't really that good in terms of defending and won't be able to switch. They have to put 2 on Paul George. Paul George is 6'9". He can see over the defense, pass it right to that rolling guard that set a screen, and then we got a 4-on-3 read situation. And Reggie Jackson was doing a hell of a job with that. He also got a floater out of it himself. So that was a good first quarter for Reggie Jackson, and you'd hope he would have a better game, and he did. In my opinion, Reggie Jackson's best game of the young season. He had 18 points and 7 assists. He did turn the ball over 4 times, but 18 points and 7 assists on 6 for 11 shooting, 2 for 5 from deep, and 4 for 4 from the line. That is the Reggie Jackson that the Clippers need. He did that in 36 minutes of play. But another guy who's doing his thing and just has been doing his thing lately, it's been incredible, Paul George. Just awesome again in this one. And you know what was interesting about him in the first quarter? I actually wasn't loving the way he was playing outside of those short roll passes. I thought he was doing well on defense. He was starting the game on Darius Garland, Terance Mann on Donovan Mitchell. And one thing I liked is, or I didn't like, I should say, was that Paul George, he had Karis LeVert on him and at times Dean Wade in that first quarter, and he was really not trying to get to the basket again. And you know what I always say about settling Paul George? I don't like it, but thankfully in this game, he was hitting his jumper. He was hitting his threes, and he was making tough shots. And when Paul George, obviously on a back-to-back, he's being worked so hard on both ends of the floor. He's been like the point guard for the Clippers. Had the ball in his hands so much. He's defending at a pretty high level, especially off the ball, getting his hands in the passing lanes. Good defense when the Clips go small. At times he's active on passes. But there are still times where he can get beat up the dribble a little too easily for me or do a poor job getting over the screen. Just at times laziness, but it's easy to say laziness when he's doing all these other things. You know what I'm saying? So it's just energy. He's got to conserve his energy in some way. He obviously expects John Wall and Kawhi to be there alongside him, and it's tough when they're not. And he had to play a back-to-back, but he did enough. He was able to hit his jump shot, and that compensated for not being able to get to the rim to the same frequency that you might like to see from him. But at the end of the first quarter, Donovan Mitchell was going off. He was going off, hitting tough threes, and the Cavaliers took advantage of some really stagnant Clipper possessions offensively when Zoo came out of the game and PG wasn't trying to get to the basket. They took advantage of that, getting in transition, getting some threes. But PG had one step back at the end of the first quarter, right after a filthy Donovan Mitchell step back. Man, just the talent between those two, just the plays you were seeing were incredible. And then in the second quarter, I was nervous when Paul George went out of the game. And Norman Powell and Terance Mann really did a great job in that small ball unit. And as I said, Norman Powell had those 2 turnovers, but Terance Mann also doing a really good job in the passing lanes, rebounding. And offensively, he had such a good game tonight. He got to the basket a couple of times, made reverse layups. There was even a time where he had Donovan Mitchell one-on-one with like 6 on the shot clock, and he had this really interesting turnaround over his right shoulder off one leg. But the thing is, I've seen Terance Mann take that shot. He hasn't really made it much for the Clippers, but I've seen him take it, and I know he can make it as he made it in this one. And the Clippers were really neck and neck for that entire second quarter. It was just a really entertaining quarter. They fell behind, though, by 6 points. And at the end, Ty made an interesting substitution. He took Reggie Jackson out of the game with around 2 minutes to go in the... It was 2 minutes to go in the first half. He put Batum in for Reggie. So he had Batum, Marcus Morris, Paul George, Ivica Zubac, and Terance Mann in there. And the Clippers cut the lead down very nicely and tied it up. And again, good looks out of that short roll. And Paul George doing his thing, stepping into jumpers and when he sees the defense playing drop coverage. And there was even one play. He did not go to the mid-post at all. in this game, except for one time that I can remember off the top of my head. And that one time was late in the first quarter where he caught the ball against Karis LeVert, didn't even take a dribble, created so much separation, got a bucket, and the Clippers were tied heading into the half. Third quarter, tighter defense both sides, but it was very neck and neck, not much to say. And then the fourth quarter where the Clippers took over, it was just great stuff, and Paul George closed the game out. I'd rather him have 26 points and win the game than 34 points like the other night and lose. And Terance Mann, for me, was the player of the game outside of Paul George. I think nothing happens without Paul George, but Terance Mann, for me, was the player of the game because of his energy on defense, his ability to get to the rim, his ability in transition, and the fight that he consistently shows is infectious. And the Clippers in that small ball lineup finally showing some stuff against two bigs, but I also think the Cavaliers shot themselves in the foot a little bit, and the Clippers just took advantage of momentum, home crowd. Shout out to everybody that was there at the game tonight. I thought that it was the best atmosphere so far this season. It was the loudest game. Sometimes the Clipper crowd doesn't come off well on TV, but it was really lively in there, and it was really loud towards the end. It just hasn't been a sellout yet besides the opening night when Kawhi played. It was 87% attendance according to ESPN, and that sounds about right, being at the game at night. But yeah, check that video out that I'm about to post on my channel about if you're interested in what the game looked like. But Clippers getting a huge win. When I come back, going to be talking about the numbers. Clippers shooting their best percentage from three. What was the main reason of that? Also going to be talking about players individually, how they did. Big win for the Clips. Going to be talking about it all coming up. There are no games on Tuesday. Go out and vote. But on Wednesday, there are games. A good amount of them. And I'm placing my bets on the NBA, of course. But I'm also placing my bet on college basketball because the season is underway. And I'm placing my bets on Providence to beat Rider. They're minus 13 favorites in that one. And where am I going to do that? Going to do it on BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, which is underway, to soccer. World Cup in about 2 weeks and change. Can you believe it? We've got it all on betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can also find those on BetOnline. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Just head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. Clippers with such a big win in this one against the Cavs. Cavaliers, after 8 straight wins, dropped the game. And man, I did give Darius Garland a tough time in this one, but it's just interesting that the Clippers just managed to pull off these comebacks at the Staples Center against Donovan Mitchell teams. I feel bad for the guy, kind of. Not really, though. But the Clippers win it 119-117 and had their best shooting game from three this season. It's probably neck and neck with the San Antonio game. But 44.7% from deep in this one for the Clippers. It was definitely their best three-point shooting game at home. And the big reason for that, Paul George is hitting tough shots, for one. Marcus Morris Sr. also able to hit tough shots. But the main reason, in my opinion, was that short roll. The smalls pick and roll. Small guy setting a screen for Paul George. It was working to perfection. Got Reggie Jackson, certain guys in 4-on-3 reads. The one guy that I thought was struggling with the 4-on-3 reads and just, again, not a great game from him, Nico Batum, threw some very questionable passes. One of them was a pass he ended up getting an assist on, but it was so low to Marcus Morris. And if it wasn't an amazing shooter like Senior, may have not gone in because it was a very low pass. And it's very tough when you catch the ball at your knees or lower and then come back up and shoot like that with a guy on you. Very difficult. And there was one play before that where Nico Batum again got the ball on the 4-on-3 and threw it way over Norman Powell's head, just rushed the pass, which is very uncharacteristic of him. But overall, let's read the stat lines for the Clippers. Ivica Zubac. This wasn't really a Zoo game. Obviously, the Clippers made the run with the small ball lineup. I thought he had a better second half, 10 points, 9 rebounds, but he had a tough game because in the first quarter, Evan Mobley was just getting the better of him, and a lot of those were just tough shots. I don't think Zubac was necessarily doing anything wrong, but I do think the pick and rolls when Reggie Jackson is guarding the ball handler, getting over his screen, It's very tough for Zubats. He needs to play. He's basically playing two guys. And there were at times moments where Reggie Jackson against Darius Garland was just getting burned on screens. And if it's a Zubats, it would come out, but it would just be a little too late. There wasn't much resistance behind him. But overall, 10 points, 9 rebounds for Zoo in 33 minutes, 2 for 7 from the field. He'll have a better game in the next one, obviously. He's been so great this season. Reggie Jackson, his best game of the season, huge free throws, and one play I haven't mentioned that was massive. The Clippers were switching everything at the end, obviously, in the small ball lineup. He boxed out Jarrett Allen on a miss and got, I don't know if it was a loose ball foul or it was out of bounds. I think it was out of bounds, but such a great box out by Reggie Jackson. It was huge. 18 points and 7 dimes for him. 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 4 for 4 from the line. All those were the clutch ones at the end. Marcus Morris, another great performance. Just big shots throughout the game. 20 points, 6 rebounds, was better defensively as well than against Utah. 7 for 16 from the field, 4 for 11 from deep. And then Terance Mann, just unreal. Plus 20, the highest plus minus of any Clipper. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, only 1 turnover. And the Clippers only turned the ball over 9 times in this game. Absolutely huge. And a very big reason why they won, of course. 6 for 9 from the field for Terance. 1 for 2 from deep. Just such a great performance in 30 minutes. Efficient as can be. And Paul George, the main man, 26 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Tons of hockey assists, though. A steal. 10 for 20 from the field. That's 50%. 5 for 11 from deep. And again, the Clippers are 4-0 when Paul George shoots 20 shots or more this season. Just a sign that Paul George needs to continue to be aggressive because, man, when he's playing like that, even though he wasn't able to get to the rim as much as in other games, his jumper was falling. And when his jumper's falling, so many things open up for the Clippers, but it's just so hard to guard the guy at his size. He did still get 3 buckets at the rim that he made. So just not as frequent as you'd like. A lot of jumpers, but he made them. As for the bench, Clippers went 9 deep tonight. No Moses Brown, no Amir Coffey. I really want to see Amir Coffey, though. But Luke Kennard was back from the injury. He played 13 minutes. He had 6 points on 2 for 4 shooting. All of them were threes. So he did look decent in his minutes. It was nice to see him shoot 50% from deep. Robert Covington only played 7 minutes, still only his second game back from the health and safety protocols, was 1 for 2, 1 for 1 from 3, and I think that was off a short roll swing as well that he got that 3. Nico Batum, I thought he was decent in the first half, but still a couple plays where he's just a step behind defensively, and obviously, as I said, those questionable passes. He had 2 turnovers in this one, and just not making the timely shots that we're accustomed to seeing him make. There was one time where the lid would have blown off the Staples Center. It was in the first half, though, and he missed a timely 3. He made his first one, and then he just missed the rest of his shots the rest of the game. 1 for 4 from the field, 1 for 3 from deep. But I also think him being the small ball 5 sometimes with certain lineups just doesn't make him look good. But the best bench player for the Clippers tonight, a true 6th man in this one, Norman Powell. And he's really been playing better of late. I mentioned his defense earlier, but 17 points for him, 5 for 6 from the field, 1 for 1 from deep. And obviously made his free throws late, but 28 minutes for him and a really solid 28 minutes. He was plus 3 in his minutes as well. Just a really good game from Norm. As for the Cavs, the big games for them, Evan Mobley had 26 points and 8 boards on 12 for 18 shooting, so 66%. But he did cool down in the second half. A really good game from him, though. 10 points and 20 rebounds for Jarrett Allen. 4 for 10 from the field, though. There were a couple times Clippers let him shoot a jumper. He made one of them, but the other ones, I don't know if he missed more than one, but I remember him missing one, and it was no problem. Clippers wanted to live with that, but he had a pretty good game as well. Karis LeVert, the Clippers really kept him in check. And as I said, if I'm the Cavs, I move him back to the bench. 4 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists for him, but 2 for 8 from the field and 0 for 2 from 3. The Cavs shot a great percentage from 3 as well in this one. They made it tough. 48.5% from 3 for them, 16 for 33 for the exact number. And then their star backcourt, Darius Garland, 19 points and 12 assists, but he did turn the ball over 5 times, and the Cavaliers turned the ball over 17 times. So credit to the Clippers for active hands, particularly Paul George, Terance Mann. But the Cavs got reckless with the ball. 17 turnovers when the Clippers only turned it over 9 is not going to bode well on the road. Darius Garland, 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 9 from deep. And then Donovan Mitchell, 30 points. Only 2 assists, though, but 30 points, 10 for 15 from the field, and 8 for 11 from 3. Yes, 8 for 11. I don't know. I mean, I know Darius Garland's the longest, I don't know about the longest tenured Cav. He honestly may be, though. But it's kind of his team. I mean, he's the one that's been there. When they drafted in 2019. But Donovan Mitchell's the best player on this team right now. And he was the best player in this game for the Cavs. The fact that he didn't get the ball late as much as he did, or the fact that he did not get the ball late as much as you probably would have liked if you were a Cavs fan, the way he was playing, it's disappointing. But they'll learn. They're a young team, and they're just learning how to play together. And Garland had missed a good amount of games with that eye injury. So, they're just getting used to being on the court with one another and closing games out like that. Kevin Love, I thought, was really good, though. 25 minutes for him, 17 points off the bench. He was plus 16 in his minutes, 4 for 8 from 3, and those were all his shots, threes. But the Clippers ultimately get the win, the best win of the season, 119 to 117. The Clippers move on to 6-5. The Cavaliers are now 8-2, but hey, I did say the Clippers should finish 8-2 in their first 10. They didn't. They finished 5-5. The major losses that were disappointing were the 2 against the Thunder and the 1 against Utah. But if you had asked me about this game on a back-to-back, considering no Kawhi, the way the Cavs have started, I would have probably said the Cavs win it. Clippers didn't do well against the Cavs last season at the Staples Center. I was also at that game. But they got the win. They came back from 13 down in the fourth. And they did it with defense. And by the way, it's something else I want to mention. Stop shooting threes. Stop forcing late in the game. Got good looks in transition. Made their free throws. But just stopped settling. And that's something the Clippers got to look to. Taking the right amount of threes. I don't think they went too crazy with it tonight. 38 of them. Made 17. Good stuff. Just great stuff from the Clippers. They're starting to slowly come together. It's just a matter of when can we hear that Kawhi Leonard's back. Hopefully John Wall will be taken off restriction and there'll be an announcement about it so we know he's taken off restriction. But we'll see. On to the next one. Clippers-Lakers on Wednesday. That's going to be fun. We'll be doing an episode after that one. And the age-old proverb, go Clippers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. And, of course, follow us on Twitter at LockedOnClips. And make sure to answer today's question, was that the best win of the season? And make sure to subscribe to Locked On Clippers. Go Clippers!